lads, there's not going to be a 2026 WNBA season. There's just not going to be one. And there may not be a WNBA. This may be... Caitlin Clark may never play another game of basketball again. If you think Caitlin Clark is only going to play in the WNBA, I have only going to play...
What you just heard isn't an exaggeration. A content creator truly believes the WNBA will shut down in 2 years. And before you think it's just clickbait, the behind-the-scenes details are shocking. The WNBA owners offered a deal that would make it the highest-paid women's sports league in the world. Max salaries going up by 500%, minimum salaries higher than what many players in other leagues earn, and an average paycheck of $500,000 a year. But the Players Association rejected it, saying the offer was a slap in the face.
Why? So, basically, not a couple of days ago, the players were offered a max contract of 5 times what the current max contract was, a minimum contracts of more than the current max contract, and an average salary of $500,000 a year. For context, the NWSL, which is the women's soccer league in America, has a max salary of $300,000. The average salary was going to be more than the max salary. The max salary is going to be 3 times as much as the NWSL.
Let's break down the numbers, because this is where things get unbelievable. Right now, the highest salary a WNBA player can get is around $240,000. Under the new deal, that would shoot up to about $1.2 million. That's not just a raise, that's a complete rebuild of the league's money system. For comparison, in the Women's Soccer League, NWSL, the top salary is $300,000. The WNBA's average salary under the new plan would be much higher than that. Even the minimum salary would be more than what almost every player in the unrivaled league makes, except maybe 5 of them. So, this wasn't a cheap offer. This was the owners looking at the league's rising popularity and saying, okay, we're going all in. And the Players Association? They basically refused to seriously discuss it. The wild part is that the current WNBA minimum salary is already higher than what most unrivaled players earn. The new WNBA minimum salary would be more than what almost the entire unrivaled league makes. That means the WNBA would officially become the highest-paid women's basketball league in the world. Some people might say, what about Project B? But the truth is, even if a few stars in Project B make around $2 million, most players there would still be earning around $80,000. And when people mention the EuroLeague, that's also unrealistic. There isn't a single women's player in Europe making more than $500,000 a year. Even the highest-paid EuroLeague star, MS, doesn't make that much.
And by the way, sorry, the minimum salary in the WNBA is more than all but like 5 unrivaled players are making. It's more than nearly the entire unrivaled player base are making. Is the minimum salary. So this is the highest paid. The WNBA is going to be the highest paid female basketball league in the world. And you might be saying, oh no, like what about Project B? Project B, people don't realize like NECA might be making 2 million. These other players might be making 2 million. There is going to be players in Project B making 80k. EuroLeague. Anyone who thinks there's a single player in EuroLeague making over $500,000 a year is crazy. MMSM is the highest paid player in EuroLeague. She's not making that.
And the craziest part? Just 16 months ago, Breanna Stewart said her dream was simply to make $1 million playing basketball. Back then, $1 million WNBA salary felt like a far-off goal, not something anyone actually expected to happen soon. But now, the league has basically delivered that dream right to her, almost like handing it to her on a silver platter. But the union she's part of basically said this offer wasn't even good enough to start a real discussion. Think about the overseas money for a second. Only Diana Taurasi has ever made $1 million in one season, and maybe a few players in China make that much right now. This new WNBA deal would create dozens of players earning over $1 million. It's not a small improvement, it's a huge leap forward. So the big question is, why would the players reject it publicly without even trying to talk it through privately?
I said this and I'm like, look, the players, like, the league doesn't have to accept this offer. The players don't have to accept it, but I'm like, they have to be close. And I was like, if we hear anything about slap in the face or not good enough, instead of shutting the fuck up and just going and negotiating, because it has to be close, then the players just don't want it to be a league. Because there's no way. And now, apparently, the WNBPA has come out and said they don't see it as moving negotiations forward. So they have gone from, this is a slap in the face. That was their previous statement. The previous statement was, this is a slap in the face, posting shit on social media. And they got this new thing and they said, we still the same thing. Basically, they're implying it's a slap in the face.
The power struggle happening right now is wild because it looks like the WNBPA thinks they have way more power than they really do. Yes, Caitlin Clark brought huge TV ratings. Yes, attendance went up everywhere. And yes, merchandise sales were amazing. But here's the hard truth the players might not want to face. Based on how the league is owned, more than half of the owners would rather shut the entire league down than agree to a CBA deal that makes them lose a lot of money. They're not going to risk the whole business just because the players think they suddenly have all the leverage. We're talking about 58% of WNBA teams being owned by people who treat this like a real business, not a hobby. They have already watched the league lose money for 25 years, and they've seen the NBA spend tens of millions just to keep it alive. Now, for the first time ever, these owners finally see a way to make a profit. There is no way they're going to sign a deal that closes that opportunity. But the players seem to think the Caitlin Clark effect gives them the same kind of power NBA players have. It doesn't. That popularity boost is the only reason they got the biggest offer in the history of women's sports. Instead of seeing it as a huge opportunity, they're acting like the league insulted them.
At this stage, like, I don't actually know. I don't actually know. Like, I don't actually know. Do they want NBA money? Because to say that this isn't, to come out and say it doesn't see it as moving negotiations forward, when they have offered you a 500% increase in revenue, and you don't even, they have no leverage. They have no leverage. They have absolutely no leverage, these players, because they don't realize that more than 50% of the shareholders will absolutely take the money that the WNBA has.
Now, let's talk about the biggest issue of all. Who actually wins if the WNBA doesn't have a season in 2026? Because it's definitely not most of the players. The real winners would be Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart, the owners of Unrivaled. If the WNBA shuts down for summer, Unrivaled suddenly becomes the main women's basketball league in the US. They could expand their 3-on-3 league, sign way more players, grab better TV deals, and basically turn themselves into the top destination for the entire summer. Nafisa's husband helps run Unrivaled, and Stewie also has money invested in it, so they actually benefit financially if the WNBA struggles or fails. But then you have players like Aaliyah Boston. She doesn't own part of Unrivaled, she doesn't have huge endorsement deals, and she relies heavily on her WNBA salary just to make a living. Players like her would be the ones hurt the most if the league shuts down. They're basically collateral damage. As a rookie, she's stuck making about $70,000 for the next 3 years. The truth is, the union isn't really fighting for players like her. They're fighting for the superstars to squeeze out the maximum money, even if it means risking the entire league collapsing.
They benefit because the bigger a rival gets, the more money they get, and especially Fee, because her husband's involved. And that's where the problem is like, it doesn't seem like the WNBA, NBPA, have any interest in negotiating. It does not seem like they have any interest in negotiating at all. It seems like they have a set list of demands and they're not budging on it. Because it seems like no matter what the thing comes back at, they're not even willing to, I'm not even gonna say willing to compromise, because at the end of the day, both parties are gonna have to compromise. The WNBA, NBPA have their demands. And if they're not going to budge, it's just not going to.
And here's the part that should scare anyone who works with WNBA players on brand deals. If the 2026 season gets canceled, every endorsement contract instantly loses its value. Big companies are going to pay Sabrina Ionescu to sit at home, and Gatorade isn't giving Angel Reese money just to play in small pickup games. All the hype, all the marketing, and the huge wave created by the Caitlin Clark boom depends on the WNBA being active. Without real games and real storylines, the entire business around these players falls apart. Without playoffs and real games, all the casual fans who discovered the league last summer would disappear, and most wouldn't come back. The WNBA caught lightning in a bottle during Caitlin Clark's rookie year, turning that excitement into record-breaking TV ratings, sold-out arenas, and coverage from major media outlets. If there's a work stoppage, all that momentum would be destroyed, and the league wouldn't get a second chance to capture a cultural moment like that.
There has to be some sort of middle ground. And by the way, I don't think they should if it turns out that there's a whole bunch of other shit going on, I'll be willing to retract my statements. But it literally sounds like, and the WNBA have accused the WNBPA of literally not even trying to negotiate in good faith and just going to social media. They have accused them of not negotiating in good faith, and they're absolutely not. And the problem is, people are like, oh, they have leverage. No, they don't. And not only that, not one word has been said about, those rookies. Those rookies that are making $70K a year for the next 3 years. We don't care about them. They're literally in it to make as much money for themselves as possible. That's what it looks like. I could be wrong, but it literally, by the looks of things, the WNBPA don't give a flying fuck about the players in this league. Like, it actually looks like that's the case. It does. It looks like they care more about how much money they're gonna make, and NECA probably pocketed $2 million and is like, fuck this league, let's shut it down. Like, who knows? I could be, look, I'm completely just spitballing. I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. I'm just saying shit right now. I'm talking about hypotheticals that I know nothing about. But from the outside looking in, not being in this conversation, it looks like the WNBPA don't care about the players. They care about a select group of players. They care about the clique. They care about the clique of the top players. They're going to make their money. Part of our clique is major players in Unrivaled. Another part of our clique are major players in Athletes Unlimited, and the other part of clique are major players in Project B. We don't give a fuck about the rest of them. They can go and fight for themselves. And even if there is a league, those rookies are still making $70K a year. So, look, they signed those contracts. Well, fuck it. Fuck them. But anyway, yeah, that's the video. I don't think it's going to be a season, nor do I think the WNBA is going to exist. Sorry, no. I think not that I don't think it's going to be. I think there's a very good chance the WNBA does not exist, which is a shitty one. Well, at least my PlayStation's here. So, what is going on, guys? DBG here might end up coming.
Let's imagine what happens if the WNBPA refuses to compromise and the CBA deadline passes with no deal. The 2026 season would be canceled. The team owners would lose a year of ticket sales and TV revenue, but they would also avoid paying all the player salaries, travel costs, and arena expenses. It's a short-term loss, but it protects their long-term investment. The players, on the other hand, lose an entire year of income and a year of their prime playing careers. Someone like Caitlin Clark, who's 23, might be able to handle it, but for a 32-year-old like Alyssa Thomas, it could literally end her career. The players might think they can force the owners to give in because Caitlin Clark brings in so much revenue. But the owners can afford to wait for years if they need to. They've been losing money on this league for 25 years. They know how to sit tight. The players, however, can't afford to lose a year of their prime. That's why the WNBPA strategy doesn't make sense, unless one of two things is true. Either they are completely misjudging their power, or they have a different goal. If their real goal is just to get the top 10 players the biggest possible paychecks, even if it hurts the rest of the league, that might explain it. If the goal is just to benefit the top players, then turning down a 500% raise starts to make a twisted kind of sense. You're not fighting for the league, you're fighting for the superstars. But there's a problem. Caitlin Clark is the only player who could walk away and still make huge money. Her endorsements are far bigger than her WNBA salary, so she could retire tomorrow and still earn 8 figures a year. Every other player, including Breanna Stewart and Aya Wilson, relies on the WNBA to stay visible. Without the league, they lose visibility, which means fewer endorsements, and without endorsements, they'd be stuck playing smaller leagues for much less money, like 3-on-3 in Miami for $150,000. And then the players would just be left hoping people remember who they are. The league offered them life-changing money by women's basketball standards, and they called it a slap in the face. Now, there's a real chance the 2026 season could be canceled, not because the money or fans aren't there, but because the Players Association completely misread the situation. Think about the future. If the WNBA folds, where will the next generation of stars play? College basketball would become a dead end with no professional league to aim for. Unrivaled can't just take in 144 new players, and the league in Saudi Arabia isn't a real long-term option for American players. The entire foundation that took 28 years to build could collapse in just one off-season. And for what? Because the union decided that being the highest-paid women's sports league in the world wasn't good enough. And here's another issue no one's talking about: the Connecticut Sun situation. The WNBA has been blocking teams from being sold, which means a franchise is basically worthless right now. Owners can't sell their investment, so they're stuck even if they want out. Losing that option takes away one of the main reasons to keep a business running. If you can't make money, why would you keep funding something? The answer is simple: you wouldn't. Owners could force the issue, and if that means shutting down the league to limit their losses, that's exactly what could happen. The WNBPA seems to think they have power, but they don't. They're actually in a desperate position, and they might not even realize it yet. The owners have options. The players don't. If the 2026 season is canceled, rookies don't get paid, and endorsements vanish, the Players Association will look back at the offered 500% raise and realize they let the biggest opportunity in women's professional sports history slip away. So, here's the question. Are the players right to hold out for even more money, or did they just destroy the golden opportunity? From where I'm sitting, it looks like the WNBPA is putting the interests of about 10 superstars above the survival of the entire league. If that's true, this isn't a negotiation. It's a suicide pact. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you're still watching, hit that subscribe button, because this story is far from over.